Hi everyone, welcome back to Linger Longer with Books. My name's Catherine, and in this week's video I'm going to be chatting through my 2026 TBR. First off, I just wanted to say that I hope that you've had a nice peaceful Christmas time and start to a new year. It's quite hard to believe, isn't it, that 2025 is finished and now we are in 2026. Time does this funny thing where it stretches and bends and twists and turns, and we just can't stop it, can we? So I'm sure many of us over the past few weeks have been kind of thinking about the books that we want to read in this year, and that's exactly what I've done. So I'm going to take you through all of the titles that I've selected to get to this year as a priority in my reading, in hopefully bite-sized chunks. Now, to start with a few numbers, I basically set myself 3 books a month. So 3 times 12 is 36. Even my maths can cope with that. And then the 4th book for each of those months, so another 12, is my book club picks. So 36 plus 12 equals 48 for the entire year. I have just added a couple of extra potential books with question marks on them. I don't know what they're going to be, but I ultimately set myself a TBR for this year of 50 books. I think that that is reasonable, achievable, with life being so busy. I work full time. I'm writing more and more of my own first novel now, which is known as Project Green-Eyed Monster. So I'm well aware that my writing time is going to eat into my sort of otherwise reading time, really, and that's absolutely fine. But I'm just very conscious, if I want to push forward with writing draft 1 of that, then that equals less reading time, and that's fine. I might just have to gravitate towards audiobooks a little bit more, and just seize every sort of reasonable opportunity to read where I can. But again, I'm not going to sweat it. I've set myself the figure of 50 to read, but it's just a goal, isn't it? I'm not going to kind of be fixated on it. I'm just kind of going to see where the year takes me, and I'd imagine a lot of you out there are the same in that attitude. It's not all about the numbers, it's about the enjoyment of reading and the reading experience, isn't it? So without further ado, I'm just going to take us through the 12 months in as light and breezy way as I can. So for each of these monthly stacks, I have created a little visual which hopefully will appear on the screen for each of the months I talk through, which will be a handy guide for you to kind of see the titles if you are interested in getting hold of any of them too. So I'm going to be referring to my iPad, like I said, and the books themselves, just so that I don't miss any. So for January, I'm going to be reading Kate and Frida by Kim Fay. This has got the dust jacket off of it at the moment. I am, I don't know, about halfway, just over halfway on it now, in the first few days of January. This is by Kim Fay. It appears to be a tale of 2 women corresponding by letter, that kind of lost art form, really, but a beautiful sort of tenderness between the 2 women in terms of friendship and their experiences, and them kind of grappling with their own circumstances and experiences. So there's that one. Next, I have listed Skin and Other Stories by Roald Dahl. I shall keep it that side. Many of you might not know that Roald Dahl, world famous for all of his children's stories, wrote adult fiction. So Skin and Other Stories, as it might suggest, is a collection of short stories. So I'm intrigued. I picked this up in a secondhand sale, and it's been gnawing at my bookish mind ever since. So I'm keen to get to that one this month. And then the 3rd book that I've picked is Florence Ordeal by Water. This is by Catherine Cressman Taylor, published by Mandalay Press. And this is Catherine's account of the awful floods that Florence experienced in the 1960s. I think it was 1966. Yes, I think so, because this was first published in 1967. So that should be incredibly eye-opening. And then the book club pick for January, which I've already read, and I don't think I have a copy here to hand, but you shall see it on the list anyway. It is My Next Breath by Jeremy Renner. Jeremy, the Hollywood actor and known and loved the world over, had a catastrophic accident on New Year's Day 2022 or 3. I think it might be 3. I'm going to plan for 2023. He broke 38 bones in his body. He defied all of the odds to survive that accident. One of his eyes actually popped out, and he was severely crushed under a snowcat machine at his house in Nevada. But anyway, it's an incredible tale of mental strength, physical pain, recovery, all of those things, and the emotions that Jeremy kind of goes through in the aftermath of his accident and realizing that he has survived. So that is our book club picks. So those are my 4 picks for January. On to February, and as I said with my maths, there are 4 titles I'm going to run through. First up is Caller Unknown by Gillian McAllister. I was lucky enough to be sent proof by the publisher. I'm incredibly excited to get to this one. It is published in April 2026 here in the UK, and Gillian's books are always just jam-packed, full of scenarios where you just think, how the hell is the character going to overcome this difficulty or get out of this situation or prove their innocence or hide their guilt in that way. So this is just quickly set in America. It's a teenage daughter, much needed bonding time with her mum, it sounds like. It says first night of their stay, they're in a cabin deep in the Texan desert. The phone rings and the voice on the other end issues a shocking demand. Don't tell the police, come to this location, be prepared to do a deal. That's all I need to know. That's totally gripping, just what I want in the first few months of the year. I really hope it's a corker. I'm sure it will be. So that's Caller Unknown by Gillian McAllister. Next, we have The King's Lute by Richard Wallace. This is non-fiction. You might recognise the 2 faces on the cover. This is Edward and Wallace. Wallace Simpson and Edward Windsor. He abdicated from the British throne in terms of the Windsor family in the 1950s, I believe. No, that's not right. In the 1930s, because his brother, the king, then died in 1952. This follows, takes us to Geneva in April 1987. This is around the late Duchess's jewellery collection. The couple were famed for their sense of entitlement, privilege, their wealth. They lived away essentially in exile from the 1930s for the rest of their lives till he died in the 1970s and she died in the 1980s. But this sounds intriguing, so really keen to get to this one. Next we have Alison Weir's 6 Tudor Queens series, and I'm on to Jane Seymour. I'm really enjoying these books. I'm reading them in order, as you would expect. Quite small font, and quite chunky, quite dense, but that doesn't take away from your enjoyment of the book. You really feel with Alison's writing that you are there at court with these Tudor kings and queens and all the happenings and goings on. Jane Seymour was wife number 3 for Henry, sorry, itchy nose, and she gave birth to his only son. And I think history books would say that she was Henry's most beloved wife because she gave him the son that he always wanted. So keen to see what this one's like. I'm sure it won't disappoint. There's that one. And then my book club pick for February is Where the Heart Should Be by Sarah Crossan. The pale font might not come out very well there, but I picked this one. This is sort of historical fiction in terms of a genre, and it's set in Ireland, 1846. And it says, I can't really read it on this background actually. I want to ask if he knows what it means to be a person who isn't related to Lord Wiccan. The tenants don't own horses or houses. We just about manage to feed ourselves, and lately some people can't even do that. Sounds like it's around the famine times that are a big part of Ireland's history, important part of their history. So Sarah writes in short form, so intrigued to see what other book clubbers think of this one. So those are the four for February. March's four are just coming straight up. So first up is Actually I'm a Murderer by Terry Deary. Terry Deary is known to me personally in terms of my reading experience, not in a personal way, for the Horrible Histories series that I read as a little girl growing up. I loved them. Kind of brings history to life in an accessible way for young readers. But Terry has written his first novel here, so I'm intrigued to see what this one is all about. It does say set in 1973, and the lives of four people are thrown into turmoil when sharing a carriage with an unremarkable little man with glasses on the night train back to Newcastle. It says by the end of the following day, one of them will be dead, one will turn blackmailer, and another forced to commit a crime. When the body count begins to rise, the question is just how many murderers are out there and who will be the next victim. That sounds like a really fun, enjoyable read for me for March. Not too long, which I appreciate. I think it's really important for murder mysteries and crime thrillers to kind of keep the plot really sort of taut and not extra words floating around, so it really grips you and drives you along through the plot. So there's that one. Next we're flipping to non-fiction. This is Drawn Testimony by Jane Rosenberg. Hopefully you can see that okay. I stumbled across this on social media, online I'm sure, and I instantly had to get my hands on a copy. And it says Jane Rosenberg is America's preeminent courtroom sketch artist. For over 40 years she has been at the heart of the story, covering almost every major trial that has passed through the New York justice system. From mob bosses to fallen titans of finance, terrorists and sex abusers, corrupt cops and warring entertainment icons, she has drawn them all. So this is a real kind of inside look through Jane's eyes and her sketches and her kind of accounts and experiences of what she has seen with her eyes, what she has drawn with her sketching pencils as part of her professional career. So fascinated to dive into this world of the New York justice system, spanning many decades. So yeah, this is one of my highly anticipated reads of the year, I have to say. So that's Drawn Testimony by Jane Rosenberg. Then we have Murder in Paris by Christina Koning. I hope I've said that right. Yes. Doubt myself when reading it backwards on the screen. I was fortunate enough to be sent this copy by the publishers, and as you might be sensing, I really am a fan of historical fiction. This time we are set during World War II, so it's April 1945, just a few months away from the end of the war. And it says, in the wake of the liberation, Paris feels very different to the city that blind veteran Frederick Rowlands remembers from the Great War. His visit this time is at the behest of MI5 agent Iris Barnes, who is on the hunt for traitors. The key to finding them is a young woman calling herself Clara Metzner, recently released from Ravensbrück, whose evidence will prove vital in tracking down suspected French collaborators. So that sounds like cat and mouse against the beautiful backdrop of Paris, albeit during kind of wartime. So I am here for all of those different kind of elements. That sounds really gripping to me. So I'm really happy to have a copy of this one to enjoy. And then book club pick for March is The Eights by Joanna Miller. I'm always doubting myself if it's Joanne or Joanna. This is a shiny copy because it's my Topping and Co. Signed first edition of it, keeping it in its special sort of plastic to protect it. And this book takes us to Oxford, this historical city in England of Oxford. It's 1920, and we have the first intake of women students in terms of university there. So it's the first time they've ever admitted women in their 1,000-year history. And we have 4 women, all from different kind of walks of life in terms of society of that time. You can imagine 1920 is just after the end of the First World War. So the women in each of their own individual ways have been affected by that war emotionally, psychologically. Their family units are very, very different to what they were before 1914 when the First World War started. So I'm really hoping that this is a conversation starter. Look at the beautiful pink sprayed edges as well. I'm really happy to have this edition on my bookshelves. So yeah, we will be talking about this one at the end of March. So there you go, those are the 4 for March. April's 4 are a mix of genres, as you might expect from me by now. First up is Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. Really enjoying Riley's writing and keen to read more of his books. What is this one all about? It's one of his most recently published books, but you can see the dark titles there that I am gathering all of Riley's titles. This one, it says, on July 15th, 1994, 10-year-old Ethan fell asleep in a tent next to his best friend Billy. In the morning, Ethan woke up alone. Billy was never seen again. That sounds really, really gripping. I have already read The Only One Left by Riley as a book club pick last year, and that's propelled me on to pick up more of his books. So yeah, happy to have this in paperback so I can kind of read it on the go easily. And I just love the darkness of this, the midnight, the all is not well, the kind of the dark, the green tones there. Love it in a weird way. So that's that one. Next is Storybook Ending by Moira MacDonald. This is obviously a very different tone to the last book that I shared with you. This looks like a really sort of heartwarming and light-hearted read. It features, it says, this is the story of a love triangle of sorts. So we have April, Laura and Wesley. And it says, an intricate web of miscommunication and serendipitous encounters. Storybook Ending is a playful tribute to romance, friendship and bookstores, and to the objects from a forgotten slip of paper to someone's heart left between the pages of books. That for me is a real like cracking choice as we head towards springtime in the UK in April. That's why I'm starting to kind of pick out some of the lighter kind of themed books, if that makes sense. So there's that one. And then the next one you can see is a secondhand copy that I bought for the grand total of £1. This is Lines in the Sand by A.A. Gill, and this is collected journalism by A.A. Gill. A.A. Gill was an essayist. He's no longer with us. He died of cancer a few years ago now. Let me see. This was first published in 2018. He died in 2016. Okay. I really enjoyed watching A.A. Gill on an episode of Anthony Bourdain's travel kind of culture show in terms of food and culinary kind of experiences. They were up, I think, in the Highlands of Scotland. If you can track down that episode, I would highly recommend you watching that. Just A.A. Gill's kind of warmth and charisma and character have just drawn me in. So got my hands on this copy. It's not been read, and I will be really interested to just experience A.A.'s writing. There's a chapter here called Lebanon, Mexico, the Mekong. So yeah, that will, I'm sure, be very, very kind of eye-opening for me. And then the book club pick for April, I don't yet own a copy. So it is A Different Kind of Power by Jacinda Ardern, the former New Zealand Prime Minister. She, having watched Jacinda in her role as PM for New Zealand over that time, I was just really kind of impressed by her approach to that role, her approach to sort of diplomacy, on that global scale, and yeah, I would just love to find out more about her as a person through her own voice and her own eyes. So I have picked that as the book club pick for that month. And I'm really hoping that people enjoy reading that one and chatting about it at the end of April. So there you go. Those are the 4 for April. We are on to May's 4 picks now. So first up is A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. I meant to read this last year and didn't get to it. So I'm trying to stay faithful to the books that I intend to read kind of soonest out of all of the ones that I own kind of physically and on my Kindle and audio kind of services, let's say. But this is a chunky one. I meant to read this in the summer, didn't get to it, so really keen. This is book number 3 in the ACOTAR series. And what does it say? It says, she has left the Night Court and her High Lord and is playing a deadly game of deceit. Her former love, Tamlin, is making deals with Farah's enemies and she is determined to uncover his plans. But can she make him believe she has come back to him when every fibre of her being yearns for Rhysand? So I hope I get completely lost and absorbed into that world once again. Fantasy is not my go-to natural genre, but I am enjoying this series. So slow and steady wins the race, especially when each book is quite chunky, albeit one of them is very, very short, but I haven't got to that one yet. So that's a commitment I'm trying to stick to this year. Next is non-fiction. This is Paris, A Short History by Jeremy Black. Again, this was on my TBR for last year and I didn't get to it. I don't know about you, but when I am traveling to different countries, I kind of like to read a book about the country that I'm in whilst I'm there. Does that make sense? Do any of you else do that? Pop a comment in the comments below if you are like me in that way. So I guess I'll just have to go to France or to Paris itself and read this one, won't I? That's a perfect excuse to book a city break in 2026. But this is, as the title might suggest, it says Paris has long been celebrated as a place of style, wit and sensuality. It is, among other things, a showcase for art and culture, politics and power. The story of Paris is the history of a city, a culture, a society and a state. This concise yet broad-ranging history, drawing on an array of sources from tourists to statesmen, actresses to artists, pulls together the many threads that have created Paris today. Sounds fab. Love that sort of thing. And look at the inside. There is a drawing of Paris from a particular year. Let me see if I can flick through. Oh, look at that. Look at that map. Oh. I will make sure my eyesight is tip-top for those days I'm looking at those maps, but I'm really keen to get to this one, so wish me luck with this one. Next we have This Is Not a Game by Kelly Mullen. This is Kelly's debut novel. I met Kelly at Capital Crime, not 2025, but it must be 2024, would that make sense? This was on my 2025 TBR because it was published in April 2025, and I'm ashamed to say that I did not get to this one. So I'm really keen, really want to get to this one. Does it say on the inside? It does say, and Kelly was kind enough to sign it for me. It says, Widow Mimi is really one to ask for help. She knows where to buy her favourite sourdough, and she knows the unmatched pleasure of an evening crossword with her cocktail of choice, a Gibson. But when Mimi receives an invite to her wealthy neighbour's charity auction, she knows she needs backup fast, and she knows just who to ask. Her granddaughter Addie needs help too. 3 months ago, she was toasting her engagement and the success of the hit video game she created with her fiance. Now she's single and her ex has cut her out of a deal to sell their murder mystery game for millions. But what Mimi isn't telling Addie is that a blackmail threat looms over the invitation. Pardon me. That sounds fun. That kind of stirs up feelings of Jessa Maxwell for me and other authors. This sounds like it's a really playful, like energetic plot. There's obviously a video game element. There's a murder mystery game. There's blackmail. There's cocktails. All sounds like fun. Really keen to see what that one's like. And then the book club pick for May, we are in May, I'll just have to refer to my iPad down here for which month we're in, is Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. I have heard of this book for many, many years. I haven't yet got to it, which is why I've committed to reading it as one of our book club picks, and that's in for May. And this book has been around a long time. There's been a movie or a TV show of it, hasn't there, as well? Let me see. Okay, published 2013, 2014. This feels like it's an American copy because the paper is incredibly thin compared to UK books. And it's incredibly floppy, as US viewers will understand. Your books are floppier than the British ones that are published here in the UK, and it does say $16 originally on the back. I bought this for €5.99 when I was over in Chapters Bookstore in Dublin, and it's a brilliant copy. It's really good condition, published by Anchor Books. So there you go, those are the 4 for May. We are at the midway point in the year. We are on to June, and I have picked more sort of lighter hearted and more playful books on the whole for this month, as we kind of creep towards summer in the nicest possible way, now that I've used the word creep, but you know what I mean. So first up is Wild and Wrangled by Lila Sage. I'm really enjoying Lila's series, which I always say round the wrong way. It's the Rebel Blue Ranch series. And this must be, let me see how many books there have been. Done and Dusted, I've read. Swift and Saddled, Lost and Lassoed. So this is number 4, am I right? And I've enjoyed each and every one. They each kind of centre on different characters, ultimately kind of a different couple. And they are out on a ranch, in a ranch setting, as the cover might suggest, in Wyoming, I believe. I might have just made that up completely. But this is all around single mother Camille Ashwood loves a plan, but when her latest backfires, she finds herself abandoned at the altar with nowhere to live. That is until she discovers her dream house in her hometown is available. There's just one problem: the neighbour. Dusty Tucker has spent nearly all of his adult life running from his feelings for Cam. But since returning home, the girl who was his first, well, everything, has become a woman, seemingly determined to keep him at arm's length. That sounds like a firecracker, like cauldron of chemistry, doesn't it? I've just made that phrase completely up. I don't know if it makes sense. It makes sense in my head. They're going to get together, aren't they? There's no denying that. So really looking forward to an easy read that will just sweep me along in that plot. Next is the Strawberry Patch Pancake House by Laurie Gilmore. I've not long read The Christmas Tree Farm. I kept that to read for Christmas time. So this is the next in the Dream Harbour series. Look at the lovely sprayed edges that I have of the strawberries and the cake. That's just gorgeous, isn't it? Love it. And it's kind of got the shimmery strawberries out front, and it says love blossoms in the most unexpected places on the front. And it says, as a world-renowned chef, single dad, Archer never planned on moving to a small town, let alone running a pancake house. But Dream Harbour needs a new chef, and Archer needs a community to help raise his daughter. Iris has never managed to hold down a job, so when it's suggested that Archer is looking for a live-in nanny, she almost runs in the opposite direction. Now Iris finds herself in a whole new world. Let's see how both get on. I'm feeling that there'll be romance afoot. And again, this is just going to be a really lovely summertime read that I'm sure will be full of joy and friendship and love and great food. So there's that one. Next, I am taking the tone a little bit darker, actually, now I've lightened it up with those two. Next up is Beneath Dark Waters by Karen Rose. This is a chunky one to say right off the bat. This is in the New Orleans series that Karen has published. Let me see. Let me see. So I've read Quarter to Midnight. This is the second one. I then own the next two, which are Buried Too Deep and Knife in the Back. I think I've said it the right way round. But I just love the simmering broodiness of how Karen paints the New Orleans kind of neighborhoods, the communities. All is not well. We have the assistant DA in this one, Kaj Cardozo's life is thrown upside down when two masked men attempt to kidnap his son Elijah. Given the high-profile case Kaj is working on, he is not about to take any more risks. So we have Val Sorensen of Burke Broussard Private Investigation Agency is assigned as Elijah's bodyguard. So you know the baddies are out there. They are trying to hunt these people down. Will the private investigation agency keep the baddies at bay? Who will get harmed? Will people get killed? All of that sort of hijinks status. So I loved book one. This is book two. I meant to get to it last year, but I am rolling it over into 2026. Not buying more books in that way. I'm trying to read what is on my bookshelves. So with that said, out of the, what did I say, the 36 plus the 12, the 48 books I have committed to reading this year, I think I own all but a couple of them. So I'm hoping that will help with my bookshelves, clearing space, donating good books onwards to friends, family, charity and elsewhere. And it will make me read the books that I've already got without kind of losing concentration on other books out there. Albeit there are a couple that I've pre-ordered this year that are part of this TBR, so you won't see those, but I'll explain those shortly. So there's that one, and then the book club pick for June, which I'm really excited about. I doubted myself then. I thought it might be May. Is Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall. I am hearing and seeing amazing things about this debut novel. And I had to pick up a copy myself. This is a signed copy that I bought when I went to Frome in Somerset for a weekend away back in November, I think it was. And this sounds, it's basically hailed as a love story with the pulse of a thriller. Broken Country is a heart-pounding novel of impossible choices and devastating consequences. There's Beth, there's Gabriel, there's a man called Frank. It looks like Gabriel's gone away and he's come back. All of Beth's certainty about who she is and what she wants crumbles. Even after 10 years, their connection is instant. That doesn't mean it's necessarily a good thing for everyone else around them, does it? Let's see the drama. Let's see the carnage play out. That sounds really enticing. It's not a very long one, which I always appreciate. Like I say, I do like a longer book every now and again, as I have shown in these things. And look, just spotted there's a number 2 for New Orleans series on the back, so I should just look on the back of those. But yes, this is a powerful tale of love, it sounds like, and I'm sure we will be very chatty about it in book club for June. So those are the 4 for June. Bear with me, everyone. I'm trying to do this as quickly as I can. So July's 4, let's have a look at those, shall we? So in terms of July, I've picked a range of different stories this month to enjoy. First up is Act of Oblivion by Robert Harris. I haven't read any of Robert's novels so far, so I want to change that basically. I saw Robert speak at Capital Crime the year that it was outside, just after COVID, in a park in London, in Battersea Park, I believe. And he was talking about this book then, and it just completely kind of engrossed me in terms of I must read that. And I haven't yet read it, so I really want to get hold of it and get going with it. So this is set in 1660. It's Colonel Edward Whalley and his son-in-law Colonel William Gough cross the Atlantic. Having been found guilty of high treason for the murder of Charles I, they are wanted and on the run. A reward hangs over their heads for their capture, dead or alive. That's all I need to know. That sounds like it's going to let me dive into their world and be on the run with them, which let's face it, that's a great feeling to be when you know you haven't committed a crime yourself, but you're on the shoulders of someone who has, and seeing if they will be able to get away with it or not in terms of this fictional take on it. I'm assuming it is partly based on true life and fact, but I shall dive into that rabbit hole when I get to that particular book. So there's that one. The next two I don't own physical copies of yet. They are both pre-orders. So the next book is the new book from Steve Kavanagh. Steve tends to publish a new book every year because he's just a prolific writer, every sort of July or August time. So really looking forward to, I think it's another Eddie Flynn. I think it's another installment of Eddie Flynn. So Steve is just so talented in creating that world of Eddie Flynn, and Eddie sort of ex-con man turned trial lawyer, and often being in impossible situations and somehow wriggling his way out of it through his cunning, his charm, his charisma, his skills. And his skills largely as an ex-con man. So there's that one. The other pre-order, which I'm seeing on a lot of other people's channels, is the next book from Maggie O'Farrell, and this is called Land. It's published in July, which is why it's going to be one of my July reads. And I believe it is set around the famine in Ireland, so a little bit connected in terms of timing to Where the Heart Should Be by Sarah Crossan, as I mentioned earlier. But I love Maggie's writing. I'm soon to see Hamnet, which is a completely different novel she's written. But I'm looking forward to seeing what Land is like, because I'm sure it's going to be really, really good. There's that one. And then the book club pick for July is hopefully a really fun summertime read, and that is the Martha's Vineyard Beach and Book Club by Martha Hall Kelly. This is a library copy, former library copy, so sorry about the shimmer. It's got a really good protective plastic layer on it. Not that the plastic is so great, but you know what I mean. And I just love that sort of photo cover on the front to start with. It takes you to a certain place in time in history, doesn't it? And yeah, beachwear, etc., and beach fashion. So what's this one all about? It looks like it's got a dual time kind of period. It's 2016. Fresh from her mother's funeral, Mary arrives on Martha's Vineyard off the coast of Massachusetts to study under the enigmatic painter Elizabeth Devereux. But she soon realises that her relationship to the island runs deeper than she ever thought possible. And then it says 1942. It's the Second World War, and Smith's sisters Briar and Ginny are faced with the impossible task of holding their failing family farm together as the US Army arrives on their island. In an attempt at normalcy, the sisters start a book club that quickly grows in numbers and becomes a lifeline for the women who remain there. That is until a German soldier's arrival casts shadows of doubt and danger. Who can they really trust in their tight-knit community? That is instantly giving me feelings of the Guernsey Literary Potato Peel Pie Society, in terms of reading and book club and being a lifeline and being set in the Second World War. Obviously completely different kind of plots, but it just struck me then. So yeah, really, it's hailed as a captivating tale of love, loss and resilience. So hoping that is going to be one that people do enjoy and rate fairly solidly for book club. So those are the four for July. Okay, so we're on to August now, the 4th of August. First up is The Night Watch by Sarah Waters. This is a really heavy book to hold in one hand because, one, I am a weakling, and two, it just is really quite quite heavy. This is a former library copy. It's a large print copy, I understand. Yeah, it's large print, which will help my eyesight. I kid you not. And so what is this one all about? Some of you might know Sarah Waters for some of her other historical novels, like Fingersmith, Tipping the Velvet. Let me see what it says. So the font size is not an issue, it's just the shimmer on the back of it. It says, The Night Watch is the story of 4 Londoners, 3 women and a young man with a past drawn with absolute truth and intimacy. Kay, who drove an ambulance during the war and lived life at full throttle, now dresses in mannish clothes and wanders the streets with a restless hunger, searching. Helen, sweet, clever, much loved, harbours a painful secret. Viv, glamour girl, is stubbornly, even foolishly loyal to her soldier lover. Duncan, an apparent innocent, has had his own demons to fight during the war. Their lives and their secrets connect in sometimes startling ways. War leads to strange alliances. So that whole kind of feeling of London in a different time really kind of interests me. You've got 4 different people there, completely different points in their lives, experiences, who they are. And I'm sure this is going to be really enjoyable. It just transport you to that London that Sarah has created for these 4 kind of characters to navigate and live through. So there's that one. Next is I Need You to Read This by Jessa Maxwell. This is a copy that I bought when I went to Boston back in November 24, and I can see that I paid the grand total of $28 for this, which is quite a hefty price tag for a hardback considering the prices that we pay in the UK, but I wanted to come away with it when I saw a copy, and I bought this from Trident Booksellers, I think on one of my last days there. Anyway, what's this one all about? Let's see. It says, like thousands before her, Alex Marks escaped to New York City for a fresh start. Now she spends her mornings at the Bluebird Diner reading the paper over coffee with the regulars, and her days working as a copywriter. When her childhood hero, Frances Keene, the country's premier advice columnist, is murdered, Alex's meticulously guarded world cracks. Frances authored the famous advice column Dear Constance, and her words guided Alex through some of her darkest times. When the New York Herald posts an advert searching for Frances' replacement, Alex impulsively applies, never expecting to actually get the job. Okay, she begins receiving strange letters, drawn into the details surrounding her predecessor's murder. Her own dark secrets surface, push her into a deadly game that takes her far from the power centres of Manhattan to Frances's summer house where her body was found and where the killer may just be waiting. That sounds like fun. Again, not a very long one. Really, I just noticed when books are on the slimmer side. So yeah, I'm interested to see what this one is like. I read Jess's debut novel, which was The Golden Spoon. That was another book club pick. So some of these authors that I've read as book club picks in the past, quite recently, I am now picking up their next books, which I think is a good sign. So there's that one. Then we have The Inheritance. This is by, sorry if I mispronounce this, Trisha Sackletcher. Again, I picked up this proof when I was at Capital Crime in 2024, but haven't yet read it. This was published in Feb 2025, so I'm going to persevere with the books that I haven't read. They're not getting dusty on a bookshelf. I haven't forgotten about them. They're on my bookish radar. So, but look at those red sprayed edges for one thing. Look, that's amazing. Love. And this just, oh, look at that cover, just for the proof anyway. It says, most family reunions end in tears. This one will end in murder. Yes. A remote Scottish island, a family reunion, a long-awaited inheritance, and one dead body. That's all I need to know. You don't need to tell me any more than that. Sometimes too much plot, too much blurb in terms of the plot is just too much. Doesn't go in my brain, won't benefit my reading experience. Sometimes I think it's just better to let it wash over you, if that makes sense. I know some of you out there just don't even read the blurbs, so you just go in completely blind. I'm not one of those. I want something to go on because of the control freak in me. But that is enough. So I'm looking forward to this one. yeah, I might just wait for a rainy day for that one, which we might have in August, who knows. And then the book club pick for August is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I've spoken about this quite a bit on my channel in the last few months. It's coming out as a movie featuring Ryan Gosling in March, so a couple of months time. But I listened to this on audio just because of availability of audiobooks. I wasn't intending to read it before book club, but I have. But I've got myself a library copy here. But I really enjoyed this one. Science fiction is not a genre that I go to. It's not my sort of natural habitat in terms of reading. But this one absolutely blew me away. We have a man who's a science teacher, and he kind of accepts to go on this mission to save planet Earth, and he wakes up on the space shuttle, and his other two crew members are dead, and he has to kind of gradually kind of work out what's happened, why, what can he do to help himself, what can he survive on. And then he meets kind of a life form, I guess, who is then called Rocky, and they have to learn to communicate because they don't speak the same language. So it will just draw you in, and hopefully you will enjoy the plot. I would highly recommend this one. So those are August's reads. We are moving along. We are on to September now. I own 3 out of the 4 books for this particular month. So first up is Uncivil Seasons by Michael Malone. Don't know where I first heard of this one, can't quite remember, but I know it was quite hard to track down a physical copy to buy it and have it. I think I ended up with this on World of Books website, which is a website has millions of fiction, non-fiction titles, secondhand and new, all for sort of varying prices in terms of their used condition. So it says this one, for this one it says, Hillston is a quiet southern town full of old families, new money and murder. A rare snowstorm has enveloped Hillston, North Carolina, covering everything, including a shocking murder. Detective Justin Saville V, the wayward son of Hillston's founding family, is expected to speedily arrest the usual scapegoat, but the boozy, charming Justin has never been good at doing the unexpected. So that's all that I need to know in terms of that. I was interested in reading this one because I've not read a book set in North Carolina before, for one thing. It just draws me in. A quiet southern town full of old families, new money and murder. What a mixture, explosive mixture. This book was first published back in 1984. Again, I wish I could remember where I heard of it. It might have been in like a magazine or a kind of review piece, but the copy, I have to say that the font in this book is not, I'm not the biggest fan of, but we shall bear with it. We shall get through it. It's slightly yellowed. This particular edition was published in 2002. Yeah, so I mean, I don't think it's been read. I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign, but there we go. It's mine now. So I will be reading this one. Next we have a book that has been on my mind for a little while now. That is Churchill's Citadel by Catherine Carter. It says Chartwell and the Gatherings Before the Storm. Winston Churchill, British Prime Minister twice, and a large part of the Second World War. He's always been a figure that has kind of fascinated me, interested me, and I recently visited Chartwell, which was Churchill's home in Kent for many, many years, his family home, which he and his wife Clementine enjoyed for many years, had many historic figures there, but ultimately it was where they lived and had downtime, where Churchill didn't sleep very much because he was notorious napper. He did not like to sleep very much and kept an unusual routine, but whatever, it helped us win World War II. Catherine is one, if not the lead historian at Chartwell. I follow her on social media and knew that this book from her was coming out, so I had to get my hands on a copy. And it says, as the Nazi threat loomed in 1930s, Winston Churchill held a series of fateful meetings at his country home, Chartwell. Amidst an impending crisis in Europe, Churchill found himself out of government and far from power. In these years, Chartwell became the headquarters of his campaign against Nazi Germany. And it says, Catherine reveals a fascinating cast of characters, each of whom made their mark on Churchill's thinking and political strategy. With Chartwell as his base, Churchill collected key intelligence about Germany's preparations for war, and in doing so, put himself in a position to change the course of history. This really feels like sort of a once-in-a-lifetime read with Catherine's knowledge and the role that she has, and the insights that she offers through this book. So really looking forward to lapping this one up. And then the book club pick for September is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. And I'm really pleased to say that I've seen that this is becoming a movie, and it'll be out as a movie, I think in 27 now. The years are all just blurring together right now, but I'm just trying to get to grips with 2026. But I recently saw Kristen speak at the Queen's Reading Room Festival in Chatsworth in Derbyshire. That was back in September. I can't believe it's already 4 months ago. That's quite scary. But I've never read any of Kristen's books. I have got friends and family who absolutely love her books, so I thought I must read one, which is why I've set it as a book club read for this year. So it's September's pick. What is it all about? It says, despite the differences, Vianne and Isabel have always been close. Younger, bolder Isabel lives in Paris, while Vianne is content with life in the French countryside with her husband Antoine and their child. But when the Second World War breaks out and Antoine is conscripted to fight, Isabel is sent to the country by her father to help Vianne. As war develops, the strength of the sisters' relationship is put to the test. With life changing and confronted by unbelievable horrors, Vianne and Isabel find themselves responding in ways they never thought possible. That sounds like it's going to be a tough but really worthwhile read, I think. Kristen always kind of picks different periods of time, very striking, memorable, momentous kind of periods of history, and what people went through and what they experienced. And this sounds like no different. So really happy to get hold of this one. Can't remember where I bought this from. I feel like this is a charity find. Slightly yellowed, but it's in absolutely immaculate condition. My Instagram will tell me, I'm sure, if I look back at it. But there we go. Those are the 4 for September. Well done for sticking with me this far. We are on to some of my favourite months of the year. That's October, November and December. So let's take a look at October. Sorry, I need to just go back to September for a second. I realise that I have missed a book off, and that is the one before the book club read. That's my third pick for September, and that is Theodora's Tea Shop by Christie Ann Jones. I don't own a physical copy yet because this book is not out, I think, until, well, some point in the summer here in the UK, which is why I've set it for to read in September. Christie is a YouTuber that I followed for quite a while now. Christie lives in Australia, and Theodora's Tea Shop is her debut novel. So I have been following Christie's kind of writing and publishing journey on her YouTube channel, and I've gone ahead and pre-ordered a copy of this kind of, I think it's fantasy, hijinks, high stakes, and I'm just really intrigued to see what it's like. So that is my fourth pick in terms of September, and that's it's Theodora's Tea Shop by Christie Ann Jones. So October, I think this is my favourite month of the year. I am a little bit biased because my birthday is in October, and October I think just lends itself to those autumnal Halloween reads, really kind of atmospheric, very distinct in terms of the changing weather that we have here in the UK at that time of year. Yeah, the shorter days, the clock's changing, and the kind of the traditions around Halloween, which aren't as big in the UK as they are in America, but so still really quite popular. But anyway, with that all said, first book I'm going to show you for October is The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. I picked this copy up for €6.99 when I went to Chapters Bookstore on one of my last trips there in Dublin, Ireland. This just jumped out at me. I wasn't even looking for this book, but I was a complete sucker for the cover, and look how enchanting and inviting that is. It's not been read. This was selling for much more in other shops, so I thought basically €7, it's a bargain that I could not pass by. This one says a faraway island, a secret spell shop, an unexpected romance. So it says Keela has always had trouble dealing with people, and as librarian at the Great Library of Elysium, she hasn't had to. She and her assistant Kaz, a sentient spider plant, that's quite unusual, it's caught my eye, have spent the last 11 years sequestered among the Empire's precious spellbooks. But when the library goes up in flames, Keela and Kaz have to flee to the faraway island where she grew up. That, for some reason, is reminding me of a book that I've not long read, and that's The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong, about just someone being uprooted and feeling displaced, although that didn't have a sentient spider plant in it, that had a cat. But anyway, that's kind of just come up in my mind, so I don't know if that's the same for anyone else. But I can't wait to get swept away into this world and the books, the spell books. Although hopefully Keela and Kaz will be okay when they do go to this faraway island where she grew up. So there's that one. Next is Uncharmed by Lucy Jane Wood. This is Lucy's second novel. I've not long read her debut novel, and I was intrigued to pick this next one up. Look at those sprayed edges, aren't they beautiful? This is the Waterstones signed exclusive edition. I love the pink. Pink is one of my favourite colours. I love this cover. Let's see what this one is about. It says, Andromeda Wildwood is practically perfect in every which way. Annie's life is a haze of pink magic and impossibly high standards. As the proud owner of Celestial Bakehouse, a bustling London bakery, she devotes her powers to pleasing others, and even though her perfection exacts a magic toll, it's a price she is more than willing to pay. However, when Annie is tasked by her coven with mentoring a troubled teenage witch, her charmed existence is thrown into chaos. Annie couldn't be more different from fiery, stubborn Maeve. I won't go on any further, but that sounds brilliant. Let me just see what it's like without this cover on. I'm curious. Oh, okay. So it's quite pale, but it's got the pink shimmery font. And what was... Oh, Rewitched. That was Lucy's debut. My mind went blank. Could not think of what it was called. But this looks like a perfect October read to me. I don't know what you think. Let me know in the comments below. Then keeping with magic and witchy vibes and paranormal, this is Love at First Fright by Nadia El Fassi. Now, I have just read Nadia's debut novel, and that is Best Hex Ever. Really enjoyed that one, quite spicy in parts. And it says, for this one, in this cozy and spicy paranormal romance, a successful horror writer whose novel is being adapted into a movie clashes with the lead actor on set in a haunted mansion. Now, I'm loving how those worlds are colliding. There's a movie set, there's a horror writer. Usually those realms, those worlds do not meet, do they, in terms of fiction? But this sounds like it's going to be clever, and it's going to keep my attention and hopefully be really enjoyable. So there's that one, and I love the purple. Purple's my favourite colour, so there you go. And then the book club pick for October is A Resistance of Witches by Morgan Ryan. Now I've owned this one. I've been keeping it for, knowing that I wasn't going to get to it this sort of autumn or winter just gone. Pardon me, I wanted to set it for book club for this year, and at the right time. So I've picked October, and it says, the year is 1943. Hitler's armies are rampaging across Europe, and the witches of Britain have joined the fight. It says, stubborn, plain-spoken, and from an unimpressive family, Lydia Polk never expected to be accepted into the Royal Academy of Witches. But now the Academy has joined the war effort, and Lydia is key to the cause, using her extraordinary craft to track down magical relics that could help change the course of the war before Hitler and his cronies can. That's a really original and quirky kind of twist on World War II and fiction, isn't it? I have never heard of that before, which just completely drew me in, and I just knew I had to buy a copy. So that's what sees us with this as November's pick. If this appeals to you, you can find all of the joining links to my monthly online book club. It's the Never Ending Story Book Club over on Facebook. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention that here on YouTube. The other place that shall not be mentioned. But look on there. We meet the last Saturday of every month. It's on Zoom. Everyone is welcome if you'd like to come along and chat about any of the books that I featured in the book club spots through this sort of this yearly look at my TBR, then you are absolutely welcome, and I'd love to see you there. So yeah, please consider that if that's of interest to you. So there you go, that is October's 4. We are nearly there, everyone. We're on to November. So the 4 I have picked for November, first up is the Southern's Book Club Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. That is really badly said, but I'm trying to read it backwards. So Grady is an author that I am reading more and more of his books by. I love just how original and different Grady's novels are each time. I read Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. I went and saw Grady speak, I think last April now, April 25 in Bath in England. Knowing that Grady doesn't sort of tour very much in the UK, so I knew I had to grab the chance to hear him speak about all of his research for that particular novel about witchcraft through time, through all of the different centuries, different cultures, different countries, and kind of everything that he wrapped up into that novel around that particular girl's home in, I think, 1970s America. So pick up that one if that one sounds of interest. But what is this one all about? I bought this when I was in Boston on my Boston trip as well. One of the first books that I bought, it was $17, and I bought it from Harvard bookstore. I think I got off the plane, I went to my hotel, freshened up, and then went out for a walk because I just wanted to go to bed at the time that Bostonians were going to go to bed, even though I'd been awake about 24 hours by that point. But anyway, that's exactly what I did. So what is this one all about? Here we go. This is like a double split cover. It's a bit weird, but cool. It says, Patricia Campbell's life has never felt smaller. Her husband is a workaholic. Her teenage kids have their own lives. Her senile mother-in-law needs constant care, and she's always a step behind on her endless to-do list. The only thing keeping her sane is her book club, a close-knit group of Charleston women united by their love of true crime. Then James Harris walks into her life during the summer of '93. He makes her feel things she hasn't felt in years, but when children on the other side of town go missing, Patricia wonders if he's connected. Is he a Brad Pitt, a Bundy, or something much worse? That sounds really interesting to me. Where it's set, Charleston, in the south of USA. The time, the early 90s, there were some really sort of high profile serial killer, horrible cases of that time, or just sort of as a society coming out of that time, like you said, with Bundy, Ted Bundy, Brad Pitt, obviously he's not a killer, he's a Hollywood heartthrob. And it's still, I think he's aging like a fine wine, I have to say. Don't know if anybody else out there agrees with me. Maybe it's just me. But I love how on edge Grady kind of makes you feel as the reader, because we get to know kind of what's happening, or usually what's happening to the characters a few seconds, a few lines before they do. Something falls into place and you think, oh no, run, get out of there, lock the door, scream, get help, etc. So that looks like a really fun one. Another one for November is Conviction by Denise Miner. I bought this for £1 and it's in immaculate condition. I bought it secondhand from somewhere. And it's a Reese's Book Club pick. I had no idea about that. I hope that sticker's correct. And it says, everybody loves a murder mystery until they have a starring role. I love Denise's writing. I have read a few of her books by now. One of them here, if I can grab it. Rizzio, in the Darkland Tales series, published by Polygon Books. This is the story of Mary, Queen of Scots. She's 6 months pregnant. Her husband is a horrible piece of work and basically plots to murder her assistant, Rizzio, and hence the blood. And it's at Holyrood Palace in Edinburgh in the 16th century. So really short, really compelling, highly recommend. But this one, what's this one all about? This is the one we're talking about. It says, it's just a normal morning when Anna's husband announces that he's leaving her for her best friend and taking their 2 daughters with him. Wow, shocking. That's a gut punch straight away. With her safe, comfortable world shattered, Anna distracts herself with someone else's story, a true crime podcast. That is, until she recognises the name of one of the victims and becomes convinced that only she knows what really happened. Nothing left to lose, she throws herself into investigating the case, but little does she know Anna's past and present lives are about to collide, sending everything she has worked so hard to achieve into freefall. Perfect. That sounds so good to me in my eyes. I don't know about you, but I feel like I will whiz through this one. I know how strong and detailed and just on point Denise's writing always is, so I'm sure this will be no different. Next is Giving Up the Ghost by none other than Hilary Mantel, twice winner of the Man Booker Prize. This is a memoir that I have owned for a couple of years now, and been meaning to get to and haven't yet. I loved Wolf Hall. I loved Bring Up the Bodies. I haven't read any others of Hilary's fiction, but this is a memoir of her early life, and it says it describes a disappearing parent and a meeting with evil in a moorland village. She revisits the secret rooms of haunted houses and meets unborn children. Plagued by misdiagnosed illness, dragged off her chosen path, she has to find herself in a thicket of words. She explains how and why she turned her losses to gains and became a prize-winning writer. This is going to be really, really insightful, I think. I was so sad when Hilary died. Such a talented writer. So this is just completely different kind of tangent in terms of writing, and what we will experience as readers of her work. So this, like I said, is a memoir. It's not very long. When was this published? This first published by Fourth Estate 2003. This edition published 2013. I feel like Hilary died a few years ago now. Since COVID, the years, I'm really sorry, they just blur into one. But relatively not that long ago. So anyway, that's, I think, going to be really interesting to read. And then the book club pick for November, you cannot see it very well. Hopefully you can see it a little bit there. It's Saplings by Noel Streatfeild. Really sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. This is a story first published in 1945. It looks, I think it's just putting a lens on middle class England and English families and all of the idiosyncrasies that come with being a family of that time. There was still sort of a really clear kind of class system, expectations on women marrying. Not that I know anything about this plot really, but it's quite a chunky one. It says Stretfield's supreme gift was her ability to see the world from a child's perspective. So I think that's what Saplings is all about. Quite chunky. This is a secondhand copy I bought online. It's quite yellowed on the edges, but in perfect reading condition otherwise. So this will be an interesting one to read in book club. We tend to read much more contemporary picks, but this is originally is published by Persephone Books. So obviously very different writing style and reading experience, I'm sure, but we shall see what people think of it, as is the way of a book club. So there you go. Those are the 4 for November. And that takes us to December, and December is going to be really quite short and sweet because I've only got 2 books picked so far. I've deliberately kept another 2 gaps just to kind of enable me to just pick festive and Christmas themed and winter themed books more on a whim as we get closer to that month. So that's exactly what I've done. So the first book I have picked, because I have just bought it deliberately with the intention to read it next Christmas time, and that is The Christmas Tree That Loved to Dance. Sorry if you can't see that very well. A Tall Tale by Miranda Hart. This looks like a really charming colour illustration, short story, and let me just find a lovely colour illustration for you to see. There you go. This looks like it could be enjoyed in one sitting, maybe a Christmas Eve or a day off through the holiday time, but it just looks really quaint, really lovely and very heartwarming. So there's that one. And then the other book that I have, which is the book club pick for December, is The Christmas Killer by Alex Pine. I haven't yet got a copy that I own, but I'm hoping to change that quite soon. But I do have like 11 months to pick a copy up and read it. But that is set, I think they're obviously set in a very wintry Christmas setting. I think there is a group of people go out in the snow, very hostile weather. I don't think that they all come back in one piece. There are some deaths, or at least one death, I think. I'm not doing the book very much justice, but I shall be sharing more information about that particular plot as the time grows nearer to December, and I shall be posting about it on my channels to invite everyone along to that particular book club, which will be in December, the last Saturday of every month, although I think because that might be Boxing Day this year, I'm going to do it on the Sunday, but watch out for exact details and timings for that one. So there you have it. That is my 2026 TBR. This is going to be quite a lengthy video, but there we go. Can't really rush 48 books, can we? 46 technically that I've spoken through, with those 2 gaps for December. And then, like I said, those sort of floating 2 extra books to take me to a target of 50 books, because there's plenty more on my book trolley here that you can't see, but I could easily pick to read. But I hope you're all doing really well. I hope you've got a cracking book on the go, and I hope you've enjoyed this one. Please give it a like, and if you are stopping by for the first time, why not hit the subscribe button so you can follow along with my future videos, and also hit the notification bell so when I do post a new video, which is usually every Monday at 6 p.m. GMT, you can be one of the first to watch it and enjoy it. So until next time, take care everyone, and I shall say goodbye. Bye.